Hi, I'm Kristen, and today I'll be talking about my thoughts as an experiencer on yesterday's press conference with David Grusch, the whistleblower. So that press conference occurred on June 9th, 2026, and it was essentially a push for more transparent disclosure and to remove the NDAs off of any type of whistleblowers that might want to be coming forward in regards to UFOs, UAPs, and non-human intelligence. And so this has already been widely discussed over the past 24 hours, so I won't get too into the weeds on kind of what was said, and I won't be dropping any major long clips in here, but I will drop a few just of like kind of quotes that stood out to me and kind of like what my thoughts and opinions are on like what should be happening and probably what will be happening. And so in this first quote from Representative Burleson, he kind of talks about how there are a lot of people that have NDAs, and he's calling for the upper executive branch, the president, the people that work with him in order to get laws and executive orders passed. He's asking them to kind of release the NDAs, allow people to talk about the information they have on non-human intelligence and different types of crafts. And so I'll put that clip in here right now.
The safe way protects the system. These are people who simply wanted the American people to see what they know, and they deserve protection. They deserve our respect, and they deserve a second chance. And we are at a different time. This is the age of disclosure. Mr. President, I'm asking you directly, waive the non-disclosure agreements that still bind these patriots. Grant immunity to anyone and everyone who has already come forward and everyone who will come forward. Open the door and let them speak. Because unless people know they will be protected, why would they come forward and step forward otherwise? It is time that we flip the script entirely as well. It has been said by people in positions that know that even presidents have been kept on a need-to-know basis, that Navy pilots, admirals, and generals describe programs to senior officials that commander-in-chiefs were never briefed on, career bureaucrats who view presidents as temporary help, here today, gone tomorrow. That is not classification. That's a constitutional crisis.
Okay, and so I do believe that what Representative Burleson is saying is reasonable. It is absolutely ridiculous that there still are NDAs on whistleblowers right now, considering the executive order that came out saying to declassify everything related to non-human intelligence and kind of like unknown crafts like UAPs. So when I was watching this press conference, I was just kind of thinking, it's like, well, didn't the executive order already give immunity to people in regards to this? But I suppose it didn't. So as far as it's concerned, I think the different government offices that have evidence of UAPs and non-human intelligence, like they are being told to kind of publish that and put that out. So we've already seen like the two releases that have come out on like war.gov, but I don't know if there's going to be other major new releases coming in the coming weeks. So like there should be, but it seems like that is definitely covered under the executive order. But as far as allowing people to just come to Congress and speak on the floor of Congress, there's still a lot of restrictions in place, which is ridiculous. And so this this isn't really pertinent to like any kind of new details or new information coming out about this, but I just thought this was really funny. So I'm going to throw in this like little clip of Representative Tim Burchett just kind of saying like that there's been this huge cover up and like dadgummit, like we need to do something about it. So I hope you kind of get a chuckle out of this like I did.
Little punk in a man bun tells me the president's on a need-to-know basis, folks. That ought to tell you right there what we're up against. We're up against corruption. We're up against a cover-up. This thing's been covered up at least since 1947. Dadgummit, the public deserves the right to know. It's your dadgum tax dollars. It's not about little green men or flying saucers. It's about what are we spending all these millions and possibly billions of dollars on that these idiots tell us don't exist. And then yet we turn right around in the skip and then they tell us they do exist. This is a cover-up. You all know it. We know it. We demand the answers, and dadgummit, we're going to get them.
So I think that most of us would agree with Tim and kind of say like it's very obvious that there's a cover up going on, and even like in recent history over the past month, I believe the CIA has gone into Tulsi Gabbard's office and taken back like MK Ultra files that they were not supposed to take, and different government officials are saying people need to be held accountable for those files being taken. They need to be replaced. They need to be brought back. As far as I'm aware, like they haven't been replaced, and Tulsi Gabbard has stepped down and cited like her husband having cancer as the reason why she's not in office anymore. But that happened like immediately after her office essentially got broken into with a bunch of files stolen. Just because I am so conspiracy minded and so many conspiracies have been proven true. I just think that Tulsi was probably threatened. There was probably something said to her that she she was probably given a warning about something if she didn't step down or kind of like get out of the way in regards to things being taken from her office. And I mean, it just goes to show that there really is this like big cover up going on. And when there's anything that kind of threatens the status quo and makes the government look bad and stupid and makes our intelligence agencies look stupid and corrupt, they will do whatever they can in order to kind of squash it down and kind of make people go away. So there are bad ways to make people go away if they don't willingly go, but it seems like, at least with Tulsi, she walked away, and we're now in the kind of situation with all these whistleblowers being threatened and being warned and not coming forward because they're so concerned about like whatever has been said to them. And so David Grusch himself is one of those people that has been threatened. This was going back a year or more now, maybe 2 years ago. David Grusch did have an interview a while back where he kind of looked a bit out of sorts. He had this big beard, and he was talking about his wife and his family members, like his kid or multiple kids, were cornered without him, and some type of men in black or military or intelligence officials, like they cornered his family and like threatened them. And that's obviously something that's weighed very heavily on David Grusch. But now, in yesterday's press conference, he was also talking about how it didn't kind of like just stop with like these kind of like nefarious warnings. He mentioned in his press conference that he was being threatened with like kind of being prosecuted underneath the Espionage Act. So I will show that clip here.
Through my federal litigation ongoing with the Department of War, I learned that the Air Force worked with an external agency to seek an investigation of me for alleged unauthorized disclosures punishable under the Espionage Act after I testified in front of Congress in 2023, discussing the results of my congressionally directed investigation in the support of the first Trump administration. This should concern every member of Congress, regardless of party. To this day, I'm still fighting years of record withholding, administrative obstruction, and a prolonged effort to get a medical military retirement that I still am not in a retired status.
So hearing about that is kind of infuriating, in my opinion. It's absolutely ridiculous that Grusch kind of served this country and he was told to manage this program investigating UAPs and non-human intelligence for our government and for the American people, and then to turn around and kind of try to prosecute him and get back at him for not keeping everything hidden and covered up. It's astounding. It's mind-boggling, but at the same time, it's like what else would we expect from the deep state? This is just like kind of the way that they act and behave. And I'm glad that he is coming out and he's speaking more publicly about this. Again, I think like that even the fact that his family members were threatened, that kind of like went under the radar when he talked about that. And now that he's talking about having like this kind of political pressure over, again, something that he was asked to do for our government by other people within the government, it's crazy. And so kind of on that point, when I just kind of like put in my 2 cents on like what I think should be happening and what probably will be happening in regards to disclosure and people being allowed to come forward, I'm not holding my breath for people to get like the clear go ahead and a new executive order being signed for these NDAs to be lifted and for people to say whatever they want to say in regards to, again, UAPs, UFOs, non-human intelligence. I just don't see that just becoming like a total free-for-all for like what people can talk about, and if they worked in any of these programs, being able to like name which contractors they worked for, which sites they might have seen alien bodies at or something like that. It's just, it seems very far-fetched to me that our CIA and our intelligence agencies and the contractors would allow for that. It seems like they would go again through these nefarious back channels and threaten and like intimidate people in order to make sure that that law wouldn't go into effect. And I believe it was Representative Luna who, I think she kind of like said something at the end of the press conference where she was mentioning like, oh, well, we want to have as many people come forward and say like, if you know there has been crash retrieval and you know the site, or you know where like there might be biologics like right now at a particular site, like please contact us and let us know. I'm like, that's fine, that's good, except for the fact that I think they already know. I think they've been told, like in these skiffs, that these are the locations where everything is, and this is what they are, and it's information that's not coming out to the public. And that was kind of like the whole point of the press conference. It's like the fact that government officials have been told in private meetings and private rooms, like exactly what's going on, and just the public isn't allowed to know, which it's ridiculous, especially as these things are becoming more and more apparent and present within our world. Um, and then the last kind of like major glowing, important clip that I would like to show is in regards to David Grusch talking about like the different types of beings that our government has acknowledged, either being in contact with, having just beings in general that are not human that our government knows about. So he mentioned that they are corporeal, meaning physical, like having a body, bipedal beings, and sentient plasmoids. So I'll put in that clip right here. Yeah.
I certainly don't have the compendium. It's a continuum from corporeal, bipedal type life to, what I would consider like sentient plasmoid life. But there are several that the U.S. government is aware of.
Okay, so anybody could really have their own interpretation of like what does he mean by these bipedal beings that have bodies? What does he mean by sentient plasma? And when we think of like kind of like the big overarching groups of non-human intelligence that are in contact with people, we think of like bipedal humanoid beings being like your short grays, tall grays, your mantid beings, your Pleiadians, like these beings that kind of like look like humans but blonde and blue eyes and just very tall and very pale. These are all like kind of like the standard quote aliens that come to people that we're thinking of. But when I heard that kind of like conscious plasmoid, sentient plasmoid kind of comment, obviously, like most people's minds are going to go to orbs. Orbs kind of respond to thought. If you think like, hey, can you please go to the right or zip off or something, like a lot of times, if you are in contact with like a conscious orb, you can see it respond to what you're saying. Or if you ask a question in your mind, it will like blink, blink, blink in response, or like flare up, or it will have some kind of response where you can see that it's very clearly responding to you. So I think that was probably like the major type of plasmoid type of being that Grusch was probably referring to, but it's certainly not the only one. So in visions, I've seen like these kind of like long rod-like type of plasma beings, but like twisted. And so when I was having like this kind of like meditation vision, I saw like kind of like just like this glowing piece that was contorted and just like very oddly shaped, and it was like outside at dusk or like right at the start of the night. And so while that doesn't mean that much, just because it was something that I was kind of like shown in my mind, I didn't physically see it with my own eyes. There are certainly other people that have seen plasmoid type of beings that are like that. So lots of people that have said that like they've been outside at night and they've seen just like kind of like these like glowing rods, or they've seen what looks like a line of electricity that's like churning and contorting on itself. And like in some like really extreme cases, this doesn't happen that often, but people will see these plasmoid pieces and they will like form and shape into something else. And so it could appear as something very detailed. I think like in the case of Chris Bledsoe seeing like kind of like the lady as like the bull that ran over him, that was in all likelihood probably a plasmoid being. It was something that went over him but like didn't harm him, so it almost like went through his body. I personally have seen like these three orbs in a row, and like the center orb became much brighter and started like elongating and turning into something else. So it had like a head and a neck and shoulders and like a torso, and then just like went down into nothing. And so that would be like a plasmoid being formed out of plasma. But to get into what most people would probably think of as like a plasma being would be a physical apparition of a ghost. So I have physically seen one head to toe in a cemetery before, and it is like it becomes solid and it's there and then it's gone. I've seen ectoplasm go over somebody's face and kind of like contort around. So it's like there is like a kind of like hazy gray area where you start thinking about, well, ghosts are essentially like the human spirit put into some kind of like energetic energy physical form, right? So when it comes to physical mediumship, that might not be a plasmoid kind of sentient being, because it could be like physically manifested by pulling a substance like out of the blood or out of the body, where it's like very, very physical, versus seeing a full apparition where it's just kind of using energy from the air in order to create itself. I would probably say that that probably is plasma that is being formed and used to create the person. So there's all of that going on. And then you also have to think it's like there are so many experiencers that have seen so many crazy, wacky, weird, strange, unbelievable things. And like those are also going to be kind of included in like this whole set of like what non-human intelligence is and what our government knows about. And so I believe the reporter was saying like that our government knows about at least 4 different kinds. And so Grusch named those 2, but I would assume that like at least like I was going to say like another type of non-human intelligence that he might know about might be like reptilians. At the same time, that might float back into like the concept of these corporeal bipedal beings, because again, they physically appear and they stand on their feet and they are able to like kind of move in a humanoid fashion. I mean, it would be a reach for me to guess at like what the other 2 kind of non-mentioned types of NHI would be, but it could be anything. It could be anything from spiritual beings that are like kind of break into our consciousness and appear, but they don't physically have plasma and they don't physically have a physical body. So if, let's say, God itself, a religious figure, an angel, and a demon, any of these things that are spiritual beings, like they could just appear in the space in front of you, appear in your room, and while you're seeing them, they're not physically there in any real kind of sense, but they are obviously there because they can manipulate the space around you and communicate with you. And then there are also other kinds of like, I suppose, like just like intangible types of beings that might be referred to in these 4 types. So like shadow people. So a lot of people, like myself included, can see shadow people like walking around in the room or walking by them, but they are clearly not physical, even though they are there, and they might respond to you. When people go into kind of like these psychedelic realms or even sleep realms in some cases, like they might see what are known as like machine elves, or even something like fairies, or it runs the whole gamut of all these different types of like quote like astral beings that might be in contact with somebody, from gnomes and goblins and trolls and just like complete oddity, bizarre, weird looking things that come to people. And that might be also like just like the astral beings might just be another type of NHI that might be referred to here as far as like one of the types that the government knows about. And so as somebody that has like a lot of contact and I've seen lots of different types of things, like I am so curious to know about kind of the details of these things. You know, it's when I see like an orb turning into a person, I don't know what I'm looking at. When I'm looking at the orbs responding to me going by in the sky, I don't know what I'm looking at. Again, it's like sometimes I hear the small voice, and I've talked about this repeatedly on this channel, but I hear the voice telling me that like I'm a messenger. Or the very first time I heard it was specifically answering questions. It said I'm a messenger of God. And so that's well and good, but is that an angel? Is that something that has a physical existence somewhere? Is it something that like never really exists in the physical and it just pulls energy from the air and from our world in order to like kind of create this like plasma orb? Like I have no idea. I wouldn't even begin to like kind of stand on any hill about like what any of this is. Like my mind can change in a moment's notice based on like new information coming out. I have no idea what any of these things are. I just know that they are there and they can communicate with us, and they're smart, they're intelligent. And so I think it would be like absolutely wonderful for humanity and for those of us who have contact to just like know what on earth it is that we are contacting, where they come from, why they come to us. Especially those that don't have any kind of like physical presence, things that can't be involved in like a hybridization or risk like taking type of program, and anything that can't physically touch us. Like what is the reason that any of those things that aren't clearly angels or God, why are they coming to us? I just have a million and one questions, and it seemed like from this press conference that there are answers to these things. There's a very good chance that not everything boils down to just the government knowing about physical entities, but these spiritual entities as well. And so far, we've gotten no information about that at all, which is frustrating. But hopefully, the slow drip of information continues coming out, and pretty soon we will get information, and we will know more about like what on earth is all of this. I think there is a chance that it kind of like breaks a lot of brains as far as like what our reality is, where we come from, why we're here, why we need help or contact. Yeah, if you have any kind of like rigid belief system, I would assume that whatever the rigid belief system is, it's going to break as all of this information comes out. But yeah, I will go on another rant sometime in the future as like there's more information coming out from the government, or more information coming out about people being suppressed or threatened or warned or what have you. Yes, thanks so much for listening today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.